Yo, what is up if you're listening to this? First of all, thank you. Second of all, there was a bit of an issue when we were recording this episode and we forgot to hit the record button at the very beginning.
Yes, you guys know that we do this live. We were doing this incredible event called PodMax, and interviews where we're running, and we got super excited, and then we forgot to hit record.
So what we did is we recorded the intro separate, and then we joined where we started recording. So don't worry about it. You only missed maybe like 2-3 episodes, but that is
3 episodes.
Oh, sorry.
2-3 minutes. Don't go crazy.
2-3 minutes. But that is why the transition between the intro and the actual conversation might feel a little off. That being said, let's go.
We've got some.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
And we spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
If you'd like to learn how to turn that content into profit, just go to contentisprofit.com. Oh, yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah. And today, guys, we have another incredible episode brought to you by PodMax. And today's guest, it is absolute fire. I can't wait.
That's right. And please, guys, go ahead and subscribe to the show. Follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at the BIZBROS, where we publish all those amazing golden boulders and lessons from these incredible entrepreneurs.
That is right. And if today's episode helps you move one step closer to your goal, please don't forget to share it and leave a 5-star review.
Today, another awesome episode. We partner with PodMax to share the stories of some amazing people that are shaping our future. People that are taking ideas and turning them into reality. These stories are meant to empower you to go all out and build a brighter future.
That is right. Today's guest is a total badass. She has had a lifetime of experience in the entertainment world, writing, performing, and now podcasting. Now, those are some impressive talents right there. Those are some impressive skills in the repertoire. And you know what? You are in for a treat. Also, her superpower, she's a singer. She says she might sing for us today. We'll see about that.
All right.
Also, her last comedy show presented at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Edinburgh, FONZI. Get
Fringe
it right. My
was
goodness.
one of the top 25 best reviewed.
She has 2 podcasts, Big Diva Energy, which she does with her husband, and Out for Blood, which got 40,000 downloads since January. Simply impressive. Ooh. You know, she is very proud of getting through the pandemic. Aren't we all? Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And the fun fact that she shared with us is too much for the show.
We gotta keep that one behind doors.
Yeah, so guys, make sure you follow Big Diva Energy and Out for Blood.
That is right. Please welcome the incredibly talented Holly Morgan.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I thought I'd be Keira Knightley by now. Ooh, where's my Oscar nomination? And I was doing lots of like classical theatre, very, the ruffs, the things the Elizabethan guys wore around their necks, look like dogs that can't scratch their fleas. That kind of look. Like that was my career, and
wow.
I was often standing in the background as well. So like there'd be people up front saying all the words, and I'd be in the back just like, what's going on? And so I was like, I've got to get out. I'm an only child. I'm not like you two. Like the focus should be on me. I'm not used to this. So I was like, okay, gotta get people's attention. So I started doing my solo comedy shows. I say solo, my husband's in them, but you know, it's all about me. No, so we did 3 shows together, my husband and I, in Edinburgh. Wow. And about divas, basically, about these amazing women, and not just women, actually, non-binary people and trans people and gay people as well. Wow. Like people who have this energy in them, the big diva energy. And what is that? Like what does being a diva mean? Because traditionally it meant like someone who was really talented, right? Like a fantastic vocalist, a sort of like a Maria Callas or someone, or Mariah Carey, someone who could really sing. But now we kind of use it in a negative way. We're like, oh, he's such a diva. If somebody asks for something or steps out of line a little bit. So that's where I'm at. That's what I podcast about.
Interesting. That is so exciting. First of all, thank you for sharing your story. And I love that you went from being in the background to being in the spotlight, because now, you know, you get to share this incredible message, and that's what people need to hear. And I'm curious on what was the inspiration for the shows, you know, and I'm curious as well, how is working with your husband as well, you know, because a lot of people, we get that question a lot. I mean, we're obviously not married, we're brothers, but
Yeah.
but they ask us, how is it to work with someone so close to you, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
I kind of want to reciprocate that question to you as well.
It's a really interesting question, and I love that we both get asked that, actually, and I imagine we probably have the same answer, which is like, it's great, right? I think people want you to say, oh, it's awful, and we hate each other really, and like,
Yeah, the behind the scenes, the reality show is, you know,
Yeah.
we actually don't leave. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Bart
before
Simpson
we
style.
came on air, obviously you two were like at each other's throats. I'd like, come
Clearly.
on, calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really love working with him. It's great. And yeah, so the inspiration for our first show was called 7 Crazy Bitches, but it was just me and Tom. And the inspiration for it was a Shakespeare speech, actually,
Oh, wow.
about how a man goes through 7 stages in his life. So he starts as a baby, and then he kind of, when he becomes an old man, he becomes a baby again. So I was like, oh, what's that like for women? And then I put different, because I do my singing, I should have told you actually, my singing, I do impressions of divas. So I do the different divas. So at each stage of the 7 stages, I was a different diva in my impression.
That's
And,
awesome.
All right, I'm very interested. I think I'm gonna like go a little bit in a different way with this question, but I'm just so curious on how does your creativity works on creating these things, right? Because you said you read this from Shakespeare, and then you model something from that, right? You created your own thing, right? And I think that is the basis of ideas, right? We are consuming information and we're learning about these things, and then we apply them to concepts or other things that we want to create and put out in the world. But I'm extremely curious, how does it work for you, right? Like, you've been in this entertainment world for a very long time, and I ask this because we move more a little bit in the entrepreneurship world where, people say you need to create content, but then people tell themselves, oh, I'm not, creative enough to do all these other things, right? But I believe creativity is a skill that can be worked on, right? And I'm extremely curious to learn from you, how does that look in your world? Do you struggle with it, right? And maybe when you find that block, sometimes how do you go to move past it?
That's such a great question, and so beautifully put about creativity as well, Fonzie. I love that idea. Like, you can develop it, absolutely. And I guess it's about finding out what your take is, right? And this was my take on Shakespeare, and I found a way to kind of put it out there. But I definitely struggle with creating content, definitely, because there's so much, right? And there's so much, especially like impressions have become like quite a big deal on social media in the last couple of years, and I've been doing it for a while now. So I'm like, oh no, am I too old for TikTok? Do I need to get are the kids gonna be like, go away, grandma? I don't know. So yeah, I guess it's about finding ways that you feel excited about creating content, right? Rather than being like, I have to, making it being like, I want to.
Yeah. Interesting. That is cool. How do we put ourselves in that position of excitement, right? Because I feel a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this, sometimes it feels like, oh, I have to do it, right? And I've been trying to change that perception, like, oh, I want to do it. I'm getting excited about these things and trying to, write a little bit more. So how do we help people, change that perspective?
Good question. I think it's about maybe incentivizing it and going, okay, look, I'm not going to be creative for 24 hours a day. I'm going to want to sit and watch Real Housewives for some of that. And I'm going to like go work out or whatever it is you need to do. So I use the Pomodoro method actually quite a lot.
Nice.
And like split up my time and then be like, okay, now I'm going to just do a blast of creativity. And that really helps actually. Or like some people like do dream diaries or whatever, like you wake up and you just kind of splurge something out onto the page, and then go back to it maybe at the end of the day. I think just finding ways to, don't make it be this thing that's like, oh God, the weight of creativity, rather than like, I'll fit it in somehow. I'll do a little bit here and there.
Yeah, definitely. And for those that don't know what the Pomodoro method is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is kind of like having blocks of like 25 minutes or 50 minutes, I think it is, and then taking like 5-minute breaks in between. So you have like 4 blocks of those, and then you take like a bigger break. But literally when you're doing those 25 minutes that is the only thing you're doing. Your whole focus is on that.
Holly, I have a question around that because, I mean, yesterday something pretty interesting happened in the afternoon. I have a son. His name is Luca. He's 2, right? His birthday was yesterday. So we decided to schedule some time in the afternoon, right? Like they went to the zoo in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we're like, let's go hike to these like trails that we live nearby, right? Cool. And so here's the preface to the question, right? So we went out on this hike. We went out for what, like an hour and a half, a couple hours, right? We come back, and my wife goes like, "Hey, Luis, take the baby, shower the baby, clean him off, and then I'll make dinner, and then we'll eat and goes to bed, right?" And like perfect. So as I'm in the shower with him, we're playing with different things, right? And then we come out to dinner, and as soon as I'm coming out, like this idea just came to me, right? And I'm like, oh.
It was an epiphany moment.
It was an epiphany moment.
Like, music included and everything. Yeah.
It was like, I like lifting the baby, like, oh, thank you. Right. And so I'm like, I literally like hand the baby to my wife, to Kate, and I'm like, shoot, babe, hold on. Give me like 15 minutes. I need to write this down. Right. So we have the studio in the house. So I come upstairs.
Oh, so that's why you were all tired when you were sharing the idea.
I'm like, Fonzie, are you here? Are you awake? Right. I'm like, let me share with you this thing. Right. And I explain the full idea, like kind of like distill it. And then I put it down into, the software that I use to put like these notes down, right? So to me, I found that when I disconnect, right, like to go to these places, to do something completely different, maybe a run with the puppies, maybe a bike ride, maybe like yesterday was hiking, right? That makes when I'm in a completely different environment is when these things happen, right? So I've learned to kind of have a system to where I put those ideas down. Fonzie has been developing something for his way of doing these things. But for you, how did you discover this process, right? Because for a lot of entrepreneurs, it might be challenging to even discover this, because sometimes they're so into the day-to-day, the running the business, the systems, the processes, like how do we repeat these consistently so we can get the results? But then they ignore this side of things where the creativity might appear, right? So for me, that was like, oh my gosh, like, and immediately my thought process was like, I need to go and do more of that because I've been disconnected to it, right? Lately, because of what's happening in our business, right? We're growing, we have team members, and it's like super exciting, but at the same time, we got to make room for this. So for you, how do you discover that process? Is that something that they teach you in acting school? Is that something that you were born with? What happened? Like, how was that start? So maybe we can trigger that into some of the audience that listens to us.
Oh, that's such an amazing story. Like, I mean, that moment, that like, the inspiration moment is so addictive, isn't it? And it gets such like a great dopamine hit, and you're like, I want that all the time. And you kind of, when you want something, obviously you push for it. And then I think that's kind of the end of creativity. When you're pushing, that's when it's like, oh, it's not happening. And that's literally creative block, right?
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's always been about playing. Like as a kid, I was always making little shows and playing, and finding the space as an adult to do that is really hard because we're busy and there's a lot going on, right?
Yep.
So finding those moments when you can switch off, like, and I'm a terrible podcast junkie. I'll wander around the house always listening to them, and like sometimes it's going, okay, I need to turn everyone else's voice off so I can hear my own for a minute. And I think that can be going for a hike as well, like getting out into outside and just looking at people, listening to people as well, because people are fascinating. Yes.
I love what you said about turning other people's voices off so I can hear my own, right? And there's this book, I think it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And it's really good, and it goes around that way, which is like we just live in this fast-paced world. We're always consuming. We're always trying to be busy, and sometimes it's literally sitting with ourselves in boredom. Sometimes it's actually good and productive because we're gonna start hearing our own voice, connecting thoughts, creating ideas, right? And
Yeah.
it's
we actually had this guest, George Bryan, and he challenged us, right? Like he's been on the show a couple of times, and he's like, I challenge you to sit down for 60 minutes and do nothing. 60 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? Sounds very intimidating, right? And this is a person that he consults one of the biggest companies like in the world. He's been around coaching entrepreneurs for years and years. And we're like, man, like that sounds very intimidating just to sit down and do nothing, right? And going, off of what Fonzie said and what you said of turning that voices off is needed. So hopefully encourage everybody to do something like that. Like, what is it? Like, what can we do?
But don't worry about it, listeners, because we're not going to turn our voices off right now for an hour.
We're just going to continue
and
talking.
just leave
You can do this after the episode. You can do,
Exactly.
Yeah,
But, Holly, I'm extremely curious, right? I love all this side of creativity. Like, I'm very passionate about trying to be more creative. I think everybody needs a little bit more creativity in their life. But I want to redirect things to, the podcasting world where we were. And I am curious because, you started with acting and writing. What led you to go to podcast?
Yeah, I think what led me to podcast is it feels like there's a revolution happening. It feels like we're at the front of something, and it's like, oh, I don't need to wait for other people to give me permission to do this. Like, I think the meritocracy of podcasts, especially like in the when podcasts really first started, I was like, oh, anyone can have one, anyone can do it, and that's so cool and so inspiring. And so I was just like, and obviously with the pandemic, it's been so brilliant to be able to still have an outlet, right? Like to be able to put our stuff out there.
Absolutely. Does the podcast that you do are interview based, or is it just you and your husband?
Interview based. So so Big Diva Energy, we have a different comedian or a guest every week, and we have a focus of a diva. So at the moment, let's say we're talking about Britney. We'll talk about Britney with a guest, and we kind of interview them while we're talking about Britney, so like integrating it all.
I like it.
And Out for Blood is a documentary, really.
Wow.
So it's lots of different people, because it's about a musical version of Carrie. Did you ever see the film Carrie?
I know what it is, but I have not watched it. We're not too fans of like the scary bloody movies. We're like,
we're good.
It's not like we're not fans. We're just like afraid of watching them.
Don't worry, I don't blame you. But I mean, it doesn't sound like a good idea for a musical, right? A scary story about a girl who massacres her classmates when she gets.
Yeah, it's like the two scariest things like put together in my life, which are musicals and scary movies together. So here's the thing, like my
musicals are awesome.
Okay, so here's the thing. That's a debate for us. Like for me, I was like, my Katie is like obsessed with what's the one in the Greek, the Mamma Mia. Like she's like, oh my god, like 24/7, like she's playing that thing, and she tricked me to go into The Greatest Showman. Right? I thought I saw the trailer. So here's the thing. From now, I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, this look like the trailer was misleading because it didn't show that it was a musical. Like it showed like it was like a movie, and I'm like, oh my god, this sounds. It's the entrepreneur, the circus, like all these things, all these great actors. I'm like, this is great, right? And Katie, like she reads all about these things before we even go to the movie, so she clearly knew. So we get to and we sit down right in the movie theater with the bowl of popcorn, and we're eating, and I'm very excited, and she's looking at me, right? She's like smiling, and I'm like, why are you looking at me all funny? Like, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, this is very weird. And the first scene comes up and it's like this incredible song, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's looking at me and not looking at the movie theater, and I'm like, stop looking at me, what's happening? I thought this was a regular movie. And she's like, no, this is a musical, oh got you. But I ended up loving
it's so
the freaking movie. It's so good. So that is
so
that
good.
one and Rock of Ages are the one, like the two musicals I watch and really liked. So maybe
you
I
love
need to
musicals. You definitely do. Katie's amazing. That's Big Diva energy. She knew what she wanted. She found a way to get it.
Yes, that's awesome. You got to tell Katie that she has Big Diva energy.
I know.
That's so cool. So, Holly, you mentioned that it kind of feels like a revolution is happening, right? You don't need to ask permission when you're, for starting a podcast to get your voice out there. Yet, a lot of people are very afraid of putting themselves out there, sharing their voice, sharing their opinions and their beliefs with others. Oh, am I going to be judged? What are my friends going to say about me? What are strangers going to say about me, right? Like all these fears that surround just literally putting yourself out there in the world. Did you ever came up at, around those thoughts? I mean, I feel you have been in the entertainment world for a while, but I'm curious, do you ever feel like that? How can people move past that as well?
That's a really good question. I think, because I've had comedy experience and I'm doing live comedy. A lot of my comedies is about women's position in the world, really. So sometimes I would get a little bit of resistance from people who are maybe a bit more right wing than I am, because I'm very left wing politically. So, I've had people in the audience who I can tell are just like, I don't, and sometimes I talk about some of the bits about being a woman that aren't like the bits that we normally talk about. And so, like my father-in-law sometimes would be like, I don't really know if I want you to be saying this. And you're kind of like, well, I am saying them. And having the courage and the conviction to do that is really tough. And no one should underestimate it. But it is super liberating as well to be able to, what you guys do is, putting yourselves out there. And I think if you're authentic, people will respond to it. If they don't like it, they'll still recognize that it's true and it's you. And if they really object to it, then you don't want them listening anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Hold on. Thank you. Gong moment for that.
I like that.
Yeah. I think, people that come from the creative world are more at peace with that, right? Like they might find a community that also supports like the art, right, of what they're doing very early on, versus the entrepreneurship world that are trying to dive into the publishing aspect. Yes. They are, they're executing on systems and processes that are proven, right? That people kind of follow them, right? And then when they actually have to put their words, out there, they face that and they are missing that community aspect too. So then they try to find it. So like there's like this middle ground battle that happens, right, when creative come in and they have amazing things to like share because they found their voice very early and they're sharing and they're okay with that. And then these entrepreneurs come into this world and they're like, oh my gosh, like I have the systems and everything like that have proven, and I don't want to piss anybody off, right? And it's like and it's like the reverse aspect of it. So do you remember your first kind of like hater moment, like or maybe one that was like, oh my gosh, like do you ever had that moment that made you question, should I continue doing this? Because I feel like that's a moment that happens often with entrepreneurs coming into the space of publishing, right? And then if you did have that moment, like how do you go past it? And if you didn't have that moment, are you expecting a moment like that at some point?
Again, a really good question. I think there's a definite relationship, isn't there, between creativity and entrepreneurship, and there is that people might think they're poles apart, but actually we can really work together. And I mean, one thing that a lot of performers will say is they say, I don't read reviews. Now I do read reviews. I read them, and because I'd rather know if someone's saying something that or someone didn't respond well to my show or whatever. No. So I'd say those moments where I've come up against haters or resistance has been, I had my last show that was in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival obviously didn't happen last year because there was a pandemic, but it was generally very well received and I was very lucky. But I got one review from a comedy website from a guy who I would say is a misogynist and doesn't like women, but his review was not positive at all, and it was quite a public review, and I knew a lot of my peers had seen it, and I knew that it wouldn't have gone unnoticed. And I just felt like shit for a couple of days. I was like, and I just spoke to other people. I was like, have you been reviewed? You've had a crap review from this guy, right? And they were like, oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, loads. He's horrible. Yeah. And I guess like conversations and what helps you get by, right? Because rather than going, well, this one person didn't like it, so that's it, I'm going home. I'm throwing it in. You can't do that, but you can talk to your community and you can be like, how do we all feel about this? How can we get past it? So I guess community is how I got by.
I love that. I love that conversations and community, use them as a kind of like a stronghold in there to, you know, keep you going forward.
What was the account that you were seeing yesterday that he's like, I actually love my haters, or like? What?
Oh no, it's like a meme page, right? And it actually. So you are on the very left side. This meme page is like the total opposite, but it's like it's like, but he's like, what I like of this post that he made, he's like, I did an experiment. You know, I don't care. Like, I know the people that follow me. I want the people that follow me to not be offended by anything. And then he said, so I did a test, right? And he published some memes here and there. And he said, I lost 120,000 followers that week, but I gained 135,000 followers that week as well. So it's very interesting to see, like, stick to your message, right?
Yeah.
What you believe, and just speak it out loud, and just be loud about it. And it's incredible how you attract the people that enjoy that message, right? So I think, you know, whether you are on the left, on the right, whatever your beliefs are, right? Like, if you stay aligned with those and you're putting it out into the world, like, yes, you're going to face, like you mentioned, resistance. There's going to be a lot of resistance, right? And I think part of dealing with that, it also comes to understanding yourself, right? Because are you doing this for that specific group of people, or are you doing it because you actually believe in these things, right? Yeah. So, and that does take time also to develop, right? I feel like we're in the middle of that journey. I still sometimes I'm like, oh, should I have said that, right? I'm like, ooh, questioning myself a little bit, like, ooh, that was a little risky in there. But I like what you said about reading the reviews, because you can read the reviews with different types of mindset. We always talk about perspectives, right? And you can have the perspective of, oh, they're attacking me. Oh, no, they don't like this. I'm not pleasing everybody. Or you can have the perspective of like, oh, this is great feedback, right? Like, maybe I can implement this. Or, oh, wow, this person clearly doesn't belong to my community of people that I'm trying to serve and inspire. They're just a bully and a troll. And guess what? Like, I don't want to deal with that. That's totally okay, right? And like, I love the fact that you mentioned community, because then you went back to them and you talked to them, and it's like, oh no, that person does that every time, right? And shame on that person, you know. We'll troll it back for you, Holly. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Thank you, darling.
But it's I think it's so important for people to just like stick to their message, and I feel it's so difficult in the time that we're living right now too, because of there's so many voices and there's a lot of people. Everybody has their opinion, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like disconnecting yourself from other people's opinions, it's a little bit challenging, right? How has that journey been for you? Do you think you have fully, maybe you and your husband with your shows, like fully detached from what other people think about you guys, or do you guys still struggle with that?
I think I think we're getting better at it, and I think there's something so beautiful about what you were saying there. Is it's like where we're kind of clashing in society at the moment, isn't it? Is when people are trying to make us be angry at each other, and we can think different things, and as long as no one's getting hurt, we can have a conversation. And when we're not listening to people, that's when it becomes aggressive and difficult. So I think we've learned to be more to be less like, well, if they don't think like we do, then we're not interested. Like I am, I'm interested in the other side of the political spectrum. I may not agree with it, but I respect everyone's right to have an opinion.
Absolutely. Holly, I don't know if we mentioned this to you. We come from Venezuela.
Yes, I read.
Yeah, and it's the situation in the country. In the last 20 years, it was just declined, and it just keeps going down and declining. We don't know till when, but hopefully it will change, right? But one of the things that we saw when we were growing up there was the division that was being caused in the country, right? Even in our own household, right? Like my grandma had different political views than my dad, right?
And the rest of the family.
And then the rest of the family. And that was a clash right there, right? And like my dad stopped speaking to my grandma. And like we all live in the same house, right? And I was like, oh, this is so sad.
They're back. They're back now. By the way, like
Yeah.
they yeah. I crashed a car and that caused everybody to come together against me. So anyway, that's a story for another show.
Yeah, that's a story for another.
Yeah, but they're good now. They're
but
good.
I
They're
will
good now.
add this.
Yeah.
He stole the car. Like, no, he stole. It was my grandma's car, and he like,
Dude,
took it without permission.
we said it was for another show.
It's okay. It's okay.
Stop.
It's all good. But
my
you know, Holly, what I'm talking about here is I love the fact that we have to come to terms that it's like, there's people out there that are gonna have different opinions than us, and it's okay to respect them. It's okay to listen to them. It's okay to not agree with them too. And just like you said, as long as we're not, you know, diminishing anybody, hurting anybody, it's okay. It's totally okay. There needs to be mutual respect. And I personally think it's going to be impossible to have all humanity in the same page, right? Like, I mean, it's going to be a struggle. There's so many beliefs, so many things, right? That could be a topic for another day. But that mutual respect, it's super important. And I think that translates to content as well, right? Because we're consuming information. And yes, sometimes we tend to consume information on what we believe in. So we're just like reinforcing our own beliefs over and over again. So I want to challenge people to maybe go and listen to something that is out of your comfort zone, right? Let's say not something that you like 100% disagree with and you're going to get mad over it, but like, or you can go listen to that, but listen with the perspective and the mindset. It's like, okay, what can I learn from this, right? Like, let me try to put myself in their shoes, right? I think like that's the part I love about content. Is like you just open so many doors to new perspectives.
Definitely. And that's what we were saying earlier, wasn't it? About people and listening and getting letting voices in when you want to hear them, going and talking to other people or whatever, but keeping your voice strong within it as well. I think it all comes full circle with that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh. Dude, Holly, can't wait. So many questions, but open invitation again. You know, I know we mentioned it before. Part 2 coming soon to Contents Profit Live.
Please.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, for those watching and that are huge Arsenal fans, eventually we're gonna have a live episode at the Emirates. Just throwing that out there.
There's no Arsenal fans in our audience, dude. Stop convincing people. It's not happening.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep pushing.
They're all Barcelona fans. Okay. You know,
you saw Holly's face. She was like, "Ooh, no, Barcelona. What is that?"
You're from London, man. Like she always is gonna agree with you. I'm not gonna ever win. I'm not gonna win in this battle.
Maybe
right
she even doesn't like football. Holly, do you like football at all?
Well, listen, you're gonna hate me now, but like I'm North London, so really, I'm a Gooner, sort of. I don't really watch football.
It's okay.
My husband supports Man U, so I'm kind of like...
that's going to be rough. You know, I'm going to send you a text when Arsenal reaches the final, and I think Man U is going to play the final 2 of the tournament they're playing. I'm going to send you a message.
Side.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
Come on, boys.
I love it. Dumar, so as we wrap up the conversation, I mean, this has been an extreme pleasure chatting with you. I definitely did not expect how good this conversation was going to be on part 2. So thank you for making it so enjoyable for us and for the audience.
I want to add something here real quick. You know, Holly, usually we bring more people in the, like, they own you own your podcast and all these things, but like they're just trying to grow a business, right? Like for profit and stuff like that. It's like a different profile. And it has been so refreshing to have you here with different perspectives, right? I love the big diva energy and what you stand for. I think it's super cool. I'm definitely going to go give it a listen to and leave you a 5-star review. A 6-star review.
Oh, you too. Honestly, I've just had thank you so much for being so warm and generous. And it's been so wonderful. You guys are fantastic.
Thank
you. Appreciate it.
That means so much. That means a lot.
It has been mind opening, honestly. And I'm gonna, I can't wait to round 2 and see what other topics we can dive into and discover.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
Just drop me a line whenever.
So we normally leave everybody with a little bit of an action point, right? Like where, people that listen to are people that are starting their entrepreneurial journey, that they might be already in their entrepreneurial journey, but they're starting their publishing journey. They're putting their thoughts into words and putting it out to the world, kind of like what we started doing about a year ago, and you started doing so many years ago. So what is one thing that they can do today to start gaining that momentum?
I think make some space for yourself. Make some space for you to listen to yourself. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes just to have a check-in. Like, you know, and it can be any, like, you know, Keith Richards, the riff to Satisfaction came to him when he was sleeping. He woke up in the middle of the night. He went, oh, da, 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 went back to sleep. Like, you don't know when your time's going to come. You might be fast asleep. Like when you were with your baby in the shower, like inspiration will come.
Yeah.
Just when it comes, go, okay, I recognize you. You're here. Make a voice note on your phone. Do whatever it is that 5 minutes, when it happens to you, take the moment and run with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I want to add to that is play as well. Go play. I remember a keynote that I heard. It was live, and I feel so bad that I don't remember the name of the guy, but he used to work for Pixar, and he was like, no good idea has ever been born in a boardroom. Like,
wow.
And then he asked like, everybody, like, who in here has had their most creative ideas in a boardroom? Nobody raised their hands. And then it's like, who in here has had their most creative ideas in the shower? Everybody was like, yeah, me, right?
Yeah.
And it's about that. It's like, go out and play too. Just like, because something happens when you disconnect your mind from trying to find the idea. Like the idea just floats up to the top, and you're like, huh. This is it.
Yeah, I just wanna say, like, if you're playing in the shower, just make sure that the floor's not so peak, so you don't slip.
Very true. Very true. Health and safety.
Yeah, health and safety overall.
Safety first. All right, guys. Holly, any last words that you might want to add before we do part 2?
Oh, well, just keep in touch, be safe, and thank you again, gratitude, thank you so much.
Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite platform and social media at BIZBROS Go.
That is right. And if you have been inspired to share your voice, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Thank you. My voice cracking there a little bit. I was like, please.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.